Yes, sir. So this is a 17-year-old student who presented with complaints of fever for 4-day duration, severe myalgia, high-colored urine, and abdominal pain, vomiting. The student was evaluated elsewhere and found to have icterus. Investigations were sent and the patient was given medications.
So basically, this was a 4-day duration fever, high-colored urine, abdominal pain, vomiting, and is found to have icterus. Doctor
Sir,
was sent and given medications.
Yes, sir.
What
So I would like to know.
He has come to you. He was brought to you. Go ahead, please.
Sir, he continued to have fever into the 6th day, and from the 6th day onwards, he had altered sensorium. Irritability continued. There were no seizures, no further vomiting, and no edema, no abdominal distension.
Yeah. So he is brought to the emergency like this. So what will be your next questionnaire on him? What do you think he has?
Sir, based on the acute presentation of fever with jaundice and altered sensorium, sir. So he has probably the altered sensorium, so it could be, I would like to know actually a bit of details regarding the fever, the abdominal pain and the vomiting. But just on the symptom presentation, sir, he could have an encephalopathy which could be septic or it could be hepatic encephalopathy, sir.
Okay, what are the other questions you want to ask?
Metabolic encephalopathy is also a possibility, sir.
Like?
Sir,
okay, you think there is an encephalopathy. Encephalopathy, you think it could be metabolic, it could be septic, it could be hepatic, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
what are the other questions?
Sir,
so he has got fever, yes, he had vomiting, he had jaundice and altered sensorium. Okay? He had a high-colored urine, right?
High-colored urine.
He was told to have icterus and sent to you because he has got altered sensorium.
Severe myalgia.
And severe myalgia.
Myalgia, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Symptom-wise, you come. What about the fever?
Sir, was it associated with any chills or rigors?
There was chills. There were no rigors. There was a few chills. There were no obvious rigors.
Okay, sir. And sir, high grade or low grade? And
it was a high grade fever. It was a high grade fever. He had vomiting.
Okay, sir.
You want to know whether it's continuous, intermittent? Or...
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, madam. So whether it was continuous or intermittent or was it just spikes, sir?
It was sort of continuous fever. We don't know. They are not able to say. It was sort of a continuous fever, but they were not able to say. The parents were not able to say.
Okay, sir.
What is most important? Will the fever continue after the onset of jaundice?
Yes, sir. Sir,
why is it important?
Sir,
did the fever continue after the onset of jaundice? Why is it important?
Sir, it could mean an inactive cause of the...
If fever continues with the onset of jaundice, if fever does not continue with the onset of jaundice, does it give you a clue?
Sir, fever as an initial presentation followed by jaundice, sir, usually in acute viral hepatitis, sir.
It could be acute hepatotrophic viral hepatitis.
Hepatotropic, yes, sir. Viral.
There are so many other viral hepatitis. No?
Yes, sir.
So in acute hepatotrophic viral hepatitis, generally after the prodrome with the onset of fever, onset of the icterus, the fever stops.
Yes, sir.
Supposing you have continuous fever into
sir,
continuous fever continues despite having icterus. What does it mean?
Yes, sir. So it could be as part of a generalized syndrome also involving the liver as one of the, generalized septicemia or bacteremia,
It could just be a tropical hepatitis.
tropical infections.
Or what are other viruses? So it could be a tropical hepatitis or other viruses which could involve the liver.
Liver also, sir. Yes, sir.
Or there could be a sepsis because this patient had
Yes.
abdominal pain
And
chills,
vomiting as part of it. And
That's
myalgia also.
important. So that means this patient has had abdominal pain, vomiting, and fever continued to have jaundice. That's what I wrote. He continued to have fever into the 6th day. And then he develops altered sensorium.
Yes, sir.
What's the presentation of meningism? What will be the presentation of meningism? Why do you say
Ma'am,
he's got encephalopathy, he's got irritability? Can it be just the meningism, which is one of these infections? What will be the presentation of leptospirosis?
yes, ma'am. They present with fever, ma'am. With some, there can be so, ma'am, fever, jaundice, ma'am. It could be associated with some hematuria or urinary symptoms also can be associated with it, ma'am.
Yes.
Sorry, madam. Severe myalgia as well. Yes, ma'am.
And they can have meningism-like presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
That is something that definitely I would consider in this patient, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
Myalgia, presenting with a little bit of jaundice and this. What's the urine output like? Any information we have? All these questions you should ask.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is one. Any other questions you want to ask?
So yes, sir. So on the
What is
abdominal
the fever has
pain.
gone through with the jaundice then?
Sorry, sir.
No, the fever has gone through with the jaundice, so the fever is still persistent after onset of jaundice.
Yes, sir. Sir, about the fever itself, sir, did it respond to any antipyretics or did it persist despite medication? Was there
He
any?
was just given 1 day. 4 days,
Okay.
taken to the doctor, evaluated on the 5th day, given some medication, brought in with irritability in the 6th day.
Okay.
He has seen the local practitioner on the 5th day. 6th day, he has got altered sensorium.
Okay, sir.
Some medication was giving pending results, but he did not seem to, because he was brought in here immediately because he had altered sensorium.
Okay, sir.
What else you want to know? So here is a patient who's got fever, jaundice, and fever, icterus. He was told to have icterus, and then altered sensorium.
Sir,
What you said
associated
about fever,
symptoms.
he had fever and chills. Yeah, it has gone in then.
All the infections in your mind, classify them in your mind. Bacterial,
Yes, ma'am.
viral, protozoal. Just keep them in your mind and just see which of these would fit into this particular patient. Or
Yes, ma'am.
infection, then keep the others also in mind. So most likely it is one of the infections. It's quite clear it's an infection. And then keep some of the non-infectious causes as well when the patient is having fever with jaundice.
Jaundice, yes, ma'am.
So for example, CAM-induced. We do not know. So keep that in mind. Now,
What are the other historical data you want from this patient?
so based on the infection causes, what are the historical data you'd like to know if it is infection?
Ma'am, other associated symptoms, ma'am. So if it was associated with any urinary symptoms, any joint pain or rash, ma'am.
No, there was no rash, there was no joint pain, there was no urinary symptoms.
Okay. And any, sir, any
Topic you discussed, non-viruses presenting with jaundice and pain, what other questions would you ask?
It has come with severe myalgia. Any travel
yes, sir.
history, no? Has he traveled anywhere else?
So yes, any history of any recent travel, sir?
Recent travel?
Sir,
There are areas where they are endemic to malaria, there are areas which are endemic to leptospira, there are areas which are to dengue. At the same time, there are areas which are endemic to viral hepatitis, isn't it? Hepatitis.
yes, sir. So
What is
any
travel history? Second,
any conjunctival injection or redness of the eyes or pain in the behind the eye
he
or
has not
pain.
noticed it. He has not noticed a conjunctival injection. No.
Okay, sir. And sir, apart from that, sir, he gave history of abdominal pain also, sir. So if we can know a bit about the site of the abdominal pain, sir, and how was the onset of the pain?
It's a diffuse abdominal pain,
Diffuse.
and occasionally sometimes the right upper quadrant. But that went into backstream because patient was sick. He was not able to eat. He was vomiting. He had more of a prodromal symptoms.
Okay, so no associated cough or dyspnea.
No.
And sir, was it associated with? I'm sorry, so the character of the pain, sir, was it with deep
It's a
inspiration to
diffuse
the
pain.
pain
That's what I told you. It's a diffuse pain.
with no radiation?
Reached
Okay,
to the right upper quadrant. There was no localizing symptoms.
okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Fever, jaundice, and abdominal pain. Where all you can get?
Sir, it can be, sir. First, it can be in infective causes. So we can have it in like we discussed, hepatotropic viruses, so acute viral hepatitis, sir. Because of hepatitis A, hepatitis.
You can get it in any viral hepatitis.
Any viral hepatitis, sir. Yes, sir. AVE. And then we can get it in, and sir, in infections itself, we'd like to think of also any abscesses, sir, which can be pyogenic or amoebic liver abscess, sir.
Liver abscess.
Yes, sir.
Or you can get it in a cholangitis.
Yes, sir. Cholangitis as well, sir. Bacterial infections like cholangitis. So parasitic infections as well, sir. Worms, which are the Cronarchius, Opisthotris, Ascariasis. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
which tropical virus generally comes with a lot of abdominal pain, jaundice, myalgia, and fever?
Yes, sir. So among the parasitic, hydatid cyst, sir.
Come on. Which tropical infection comes with high fever, myalgia, jaundice, and abdominal pain?
So leptospirosis.
Between leptospirosis and dengue, which have you seen more?
Sir, dengue is more common, sir. Yes, sir, among viral.
You can get it in dengue, you can get it in leptospirosis.
So malaria also, sir.
Yeah, malaria you get. Malaria is because of enlarged liver. Dengue is because of polycirrhosis. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it? Dengue you can get small bit of ascites, you can get a small bit of. You can also get a mild pleural effusion.
Yes, sir.
So that was abdominal pain. So I think basically any other relevant question? Then any other history you will ask apart from these things? Apart from this, viruses, infections, anything else? You ask for a rash.
Any history of consumption of alternative?
Consumption
of any medication, alternative medication?
Any drug intake?
Yes, sir.
Cannot be not even be an alternative medicine. It can be a drug.
Yes, sir. Any drug intake.
You could have taken drug for. You could have taken an antibiotic for something. You could have taken anti-seizure drugs, epileptic drugs. You could have taken CAM, isn't it?
CAM. Yes, sir.
Okay. So any drug intake is another thing. Then. Any previous history of jaundice?
A past history of similar complaints, yes, sir.
Yeah, what?
Sir,
did you ask that question? Any previous history of jaundice?
Sir, in recurrent pyogenic cholangitis, it may be relevant, sir.
Come on. Somebody 17-year-old comes with
hepatitis
How many
B,
times
sir?
I've seen encephalopathy, altered sensorium, and recurrent pyogenic cholangitis?
No, sir.
Young chap comes with jaundice, fever, altered sensorium on the 6th day. So you're thinking of hepatic encephalopathy. What are the underlying conditions where previous jaundice can be there and patient can present later like this?
Sir, hepatitis B.
Reactivation of hepatitis.
Reactivation of hepatitis B, sir. Sir, if sir, any history of any TB with consumption of AKT and drug-induced.
I'm in a classroom. Just.
But it won't present with chills.
Yeah. Tell me. Tell me, one is the hepatitis B, number 2.
Sir, in a young patient, sir, in addition to this, sir, any...
He's only 17 years, so...
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, Wilson's disease, sir.
Wilson's can come like this, then?
Can come. The fever, although will not, it could be this confounding factor, sir. Then third, sir, it could be because of Um,
Budd-Chiari, acute Budd-Chiari.
Budd-Chiari syndrome.
Could have had
Uh,
mild jaundice, some smelting, and then we could have this thing. So, okay. Among the drugs, which can come with like this syndrome?
Sir, anti-tubercular therapy, sir.
ATT,
ATT can present like this. Sir.
paracetamol.
Paracetamol induced.
Tell me non-paracetamol drugs where patients can come like fever, jaundice, altered sensorium.
So methotrexate.
Methotrexate causes fibrosis.
Fibrosis. Okay.
Methotrexate, have you ever seen coming with ALF?
Oh no, sir.
When do you check for liver toxicity in methotrexate? What cumulative dose you check
Sir,
for?
More than 3 grams, sir.
More than 1.5 grams.
1.5.
Not only you this thing, it produces little thing. What are the other thing which can produce ALF-like pictures?
Sir,
Phenytoin, valproate,
yes.
carbamazepine, immune checkpoint
Anticonvulsants, yes, sir.
interferontoin, flucoxetine, and patients who also inject drugs, isn't it? You should also look for this one, inject drugs.
Okay.
Cocaine and excites drugs, all this can produce ALF. If this patient has been 17-year-old lady, what else can produce like this?
Sir, if it is, sir, diseases like acute
Very
fatty liver.
question, doctor. Patient is a 17-year-old lady. What will be the other differential diagnosis?
Sir,
Apart from Wilson's, apart from active thing, apart from acute.
the autoimmune hepatitis.
Autoimmune
could be one
hepatitis
of the
or
causes.
pregnancy induced. Okay.
Pregnancy induced
So
acute
this is
fatty
all
liver.
what you need to ask. So no previous jaundice, no salivatoring, no drug intake, fever persistent with onset of jaundice, no risk factors, no family history of liver disease, no addictions. People who inject cocaine, people who inject ecstatic drugs can also come to you with severe liver. We can come with fever, jaundice, and altered sensorium. Okay. So the issues here are a young male presented with fever, jaundice, altered sensorium, fever persisted with jaundice, altered sensorium within 7 days of jaundice. So issues are fever, 4 days,
Yes, sir.
5th day evaluated and told have ictus, 6th day altered sensorium, fever persisted with jaundice, and he had an altered sensorium within 7 days.
Yes, sir.
So what do you think he has?
Sir, this is a acute
Is it
liver failure,
acute
sir.
hepatitis? Is it acute hepatic injury, or is it acute liver failure?
Sir, it is jaundice. We don't know for the presence of coagulopathy, but it is within 7 days. It's complicated with encephalopathy, so it is an acute liver failure, sir.
So if it is an acute liver failure, what type? Hyperacute, acute, subacute?
It is hyperacute, sir. Within 7 days, the patient has.
What does hyperacute mean to you?
Sir, rapidly progressive.
They are rapidly progressive. Then number 2.
Sir, number 2. Sir, it could indicate prognosis-wise. It indicates these patients tend to recover also.
They come with extrahepatic organ failure. Number 3, what is the prognosis in a hyperacute?
Sorry, sir.
What is the prognosis?
Sir, they have a better prognosis, sir.
Have a better prognosis despite having
despite progressing very rapidly. Yes.
So within 7 days is hyperacute. They progress. They have more incidence of extrahepatic organ involvement, as well as they have a better prognosis. So what is your differential diagnosis now? You come one by one.
Yes, sir.
I've given you the issues, how the young male is presented. You give me a syndromic diagnosis. So syndromic diagnosis is possible acute liver failure, hyperacute type. Differential diagnosis.
So differential diagnosis, I would first like to keep infective causes first, sir.
No, tell me what are the infections can cause acute liver failure in a young
Yes,
male?
Sir, it could be, sir, so liver, so hepatotropic infections, so viral infections, sir, hepatitis E, hepatitis A, reactivation of hepatitis B, then
Reactivation. Even acute hepatitis B can
even
go
acute
into liver
hepatitis B. Yes, sir.
failure. Acute hepatitis B, what percentage will go into liver failure?
Sir, acute hepatitis B, sir, sir, less than 5%, sir.
3% will go for acute level.
3%.
So hepatitis E, hepatitis B, reactivation of hepatitis B, and hepatitis A.
Yes, sir.
Apart from it, what are the other viruses which can cause acute liver failure?
Sir, apart from this, sir, herpes simplex virus is known to cause it, sir.
Now, what is the most common you have seen in your training period in India?
Sir, non-hepatotropic, so dengue
That's what I'm
virus.
asking. We already finished
Yes, sir.
hepatotropic. You tell me what are the non-hepatotropics conditions which can produce non-hepatotropic organisms which can produce acute hepatitis and liver failure.
And liver failure, sir. Dengue is characterized by acute liver failure.
Dengue hemorrhagic fever will go.
Hemorrhagic fever.
Failure. Any idea what percentage goes in?
I'm not aware of the percentage.
0.35%. 0.35% goes into acute liver failure. Dengue, number 2. You said HSV, correct. HSV.
Yes, sir.
Number 3.
Sir, among
You check
non-viral
HSV. What is the other virus you will check for?
Sir, Epstein-Barr
virus. Number 4.
Sir, leptospirosis can be
Virus. You finish virus.
Sorry.
CMV.
CMV can cause. Yes, sir.
Then what else? Varicella zoster. So dengue, HSV, varicella zoster, EBV, CMV can cause leptospirosis, but leptospirosis generally do not cause acute liver failure. It can cause jaundice. Predominantly, patients become sicker mainly because of acidosis due to renal shutdown. Okay, leptospiro can also be considered. Then,
sir,
non-infective causes of acute liver failure.
So non-infective causes, sir, young males. So Wilson's disease, I would consider, sir.
Another thing is drugs. We have already discussed drugs. The second thing is drugs. Third is Wilson's. Yeah, next.
Wilson's. Sir, Budd-Chiari.
Good. Budd-Chiari.
Possibility. And yes, sir.
To keep fever and jaundice together, no? So the other things that you're discussing is
fever and jaundice.
Response, no? Systemic inflammatory response rather than an infective cause.
Okay.
Then consider a hypersensitive reaction to some medication. So I'll really probe into the medication. And I'll keep infections as a prime. Like in Budd-Chiari and all, if you get fever, then there has to be...
Very unlikely for fever,
Likely or less likely. Yes. Wilson's disease,
Wilson's is less likely.
Anything else can have fever and jaundice.
But Wilson's and you consider...
non-infective. We generally said all the general causes of acute liver failure. You said Wilson's, Budd-Chiari. If it is a female, rule out autoimmune, pregnancy-induced, this thing. Ischemic hepatitis is another thing which can produce ALF. But what are the other things which can produce? What are the other things which can produce fever, jaundice, and ALF?
Sir, other causes like sir, fever, jaundice, ALF, sir, generalized sepsis and malignancy, sir. Malignancy also can cause it, sir.
Infiltrative disorders.
Yes, sir. Sir, lymphomas. Yes, sir.
Malignancies. Lymphomas can produce fever and jaundice. Then,
sir, apart from that, sir, veno-occlusive disease also is.
They don't come with fever.
Not with fever, but yes, sir.
HLH.
Sir,
Hemophagocytic syndromes can come with fever, jaundice, and acute.
yes.
Okay. So I think this patient has got had fever. We have, of course, in any fever with jaundice in a tropical country, you always look for cholangitis. You look for amoebic liver abscess, but nobody comes within 7 days in amoebic liver abscess or cholangitis with altered sensorium in a younger fever. Okay.
Yes.
If he's a 17-year-old man, patient, what could be the cause of cholangitis? If he's 70, he's only 17 years, and you're saying cholangitis. What are the possible cause of cholangitis in this patient?
Sir, so it could be one is because of recurrent pyogenic cholangitis could be one of the causes, sir. This oriental.
They have a long history. They will not come with 4
very
days
long
of
stand.
fever on this one.
Sir, parasites like worm could be a cause, sir.
And unless the stricture forms, stone forms, then only they come with this one. Then?
Parasitic.
Okay, biliary ascariasis one.
Ascariasis can be a cause, sir.
Can choledochal cyst come with cholangitis?
Yes, sir. So choledochal cyst also can be a cause. Yes, sir.
If he has not noticed a portal cavernoma with a stone, he can also come with cholangitis and altered sensorium. Okay. Supposing this patient has had an EHPO, which he did not know, he has never bled, he may come with the. So these are the issues which you might be asked. What are the common cause of cholangitis in a patient who has got 17-year-old? Okay, go ahead, please.
Sir, I'm sorry, sir. On examination, the patient is icteric. There is no fluid overload state.
I think just hold on. Just hold on. How would you differentiate? You mentioned metabolic encephalopathy. You mentioned about sepsis and encephalopathy, and then you mentioned hepatic encephalopathy.
Yes, madam.
I would also keep meningism as. So how would you differentiate these four in a patient who comes with fever and jaundice?
Ma'am, if the patient is in encephalopathy, ma'am, presence of flaps would indicate hepatic encephalopathy, madam.
It's not a specific sign. Flap as asplexis can occur in cardiac, it can occur in pulmonary, it can occur in renal, it can occur in any of the conditions.
Uremia also, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so you have to keep the clinical.
Ma'am, if associated with icterus also, ma'am.
Just 1 second. So you have to keep whatever is the symptom the patient has, right? Sepsis can cause, no?
Septic encaph can be a cause.
Can get septicemia, can get multiple polycytic abscess, and the patient would present just with jaundice. They'll have pain with the right hypochondrium, they'll present with encephalopathy. So I think what
yes.
I would do is probably keep the fever and jaundice on one side and discuss the altered sensorium on the right side, and then give a differentials and then see which of them would fit in with the fever and the jaundice. And there's an abdominal pain, which I presume it should be the right hypochondrium, hopefully, or I hope it's not pancreatitis. I do not know that. So that is the other thing that's important, because if you have fever, pain, and jaundice, then it again becomes an extrahepatic biliary obstruction. Yeah, so the pain description is very important.
Yes.
So if you're given patient with altered sensorium, I think you should keep all these four on the right side and then see which of them would correlate with the fever and jaundice on the left side.
Yes.
So I think that's important because, definitely I would, ALF, yes, if it is hepatic, then ALF will come as a DD.
Yes.
But suppose he's more like a meningism and it's more of a stiffness and there's not much of a this thing, there's only mild obtundation. Then I'll consider
more of septic.
Severe myalgia is there, jaundice is there, and he's got this, all the findings that would fit in with this thing. Dengue can also present with meningism. If they have with a bleed into the brain, into the cerebrum, then again they can have. So I think you have to keep all these. And then, of course, he's acidotic. And if he's got renal dysfunction, then again, I would like to consider metabolic. So I think that encephalopathy bit is something that needs to be sorted out as you evaluate the patient. And then saying that in my patient, since patient has got fever with chills and ripers and has got jaundice as presentation, my differentials would be these. In presence of this altered sensorium, I would consider the other possibilities, okay? And then keep those as you see him, he's already come to ER, he's acidotic, he's having breathing difficulty. Metabolic is more
Yes.
likely.
Last.
Hepatic encephalopathy would be the second differential. It's not uncommon if you have a stone disease, polydocylithiasis, and the septicemia. You have these polydocyle the shunts. The polyhepatic shunts. Then you can have a
Polyhepatic.
very very severe type of septicemia, and you will not be able to differentiate that from a hepatic encephalopathy. Dr. Varghese, you can give in your comments, and then LDK can take over.
I think it was discussed quite exhaustively, and I think all possible causes of acute liver disease with altered sensorium has been discussed. I think you can go ahead.
Okay, sir. Sir, so the blood pressure was 90 by 50. The pulse rate was 132 per minute. There's no neck stiffness, and the plantars were extensor. There is grade 2 encephalopathy. Conjunctival hemorrhage was present, and liver span is normal. There is no spleen and no presence of any ascites.
I think we already discussed the syndromic diagnosis is possibly looks like
Acute hyperacute liver failure, sir.
Acute liver failure, hyperacute type. Differential type diagnosis, as we said, it looks as if it is probably viral or tropical hepatitis, mainly because the fever was well into after developing icterus.
Yes.
And he has no evidence of any decompensation or any previous chronic liver disease. But we will keep in mind, one is a viral, which can be hepatotropic, non-hepatotropic, what we think. Second, we think of drugs, which has no history. Third, we will always keep Wilson's disease, because sometimes when you have acute hemolysis, it can come with fever. So because there is a fever, it could be infective, hepatotropic, non-hepatotropic. Drugs can always produce like drug-induced hepatitis can come with just like in viral hepatitis. And number third thing is you can always have malignant infiltration usage, as you said. And when people use cocaine or ecstasy, they can also come to you with fever, jaundice, and acute liver failure. Sometimes malignant lymphoma can come with acute liver failure. Okay. So.
Yes.
So what are so you're going to admit him in the ICU now, okay?
Yes, sir.
So what is your initial resuscitation of this patient?
Sir, initially, sir, I would start.
You are in the emergency.
Sir,
you are in the emergency. Yes. Patient is in grade 2 encephalopathy.
Yes, sir.
BP is 90 by 50. Heart rate is 132.
Yes, sir.
What is your initial assessment in the emergency room?
Yes, sir.
And what will you do?
Sir, initially I would after the clinical assessment, sir, I would start this patient. I would send an arterial blood gas immediately, urgently, to look.
The most important thing is you check your glucose levels, no?
Glucose level, yes, sir.
Check his blood sugar, first of all.
Yes, sir.
Then.
And sir, if it is low, I would start the patient a pint of dextrose, sir, dextrose normal saline, sir.
You will never know. I told you here, look at this patient. This patient has got encephalopathy and his plantars are going up. He has got BP of 90 by 50, tachycardia 132. What is your interpretation here? He has got acute liver failure. He's got a BP of 90 by 50, heart rate of 132, and his plantars are going up.
Sir, yes, sir. So,
what does plantars going up tell you?
Sir, it is rapidly worsening. So it could be that the cerebral edema. It could indicate cerebral edema.
What acute cerebral edema?
Yes, sir.
In the presence of cerebral edema, will you ever give dextrose?
No, sir.
5% dextrose? Never.
No, sir.
Always try to correct it by 50% dextrose.
Dextrose, yes.
So how will you resuscitate him?
Sir, I would, I would give 25% or 50% dextrose, sir.
That's okay if he has got hypoglycemia. Supposing his blood sugar is 110 now.
Okay, then, sir.
BP is 90 by 50.
Sir, then if I would look for the
What is
presence
the
or
best way
absence
of
of
clinically looking out whether he has got adequate hydration or no adequate hydration?
Sir, the skin turgor, a skin pinch, sir. And the hydration, we look at the tongue and the for
Oh,
the
he's
hydration.
an encephalopathy doctor. Look at the
Sir,
neck veins. Look at the neck veins.
twin, sir. Yes, sir.
And okay, number one. Number two, so how will you resuscitate his fluid now?
Sir, sir, if there is I would start him on if he is since there is the BP is also on the lower side, sir. It's,
Lawyer
hypotensive.
doctor, I'm telling you again, 90/50.
Yes, sir. So then since the
So the
sugar
map is what? The mean arterial pressure is only.
I would keep target a mean arterial pressure of at least 75 millimeters of mercury, sir.
Okay,
So
what
that
will you
would
start
ensure.
now for him? You tell me, what do you start?
So now I would start normal saline, sir.
Crystalloids.
Yes, sir. Crystalloid, sir.
Okay. Why can't you give him hydroxyethyl starch?
Sir, there is, sir, no, sir, because it is, I don't know, there's no evidence of
Where do
giving
you
the,
put it?
sorry, sir.
Hydroxyethyl starch, why you won't give?
Sir, because he is, the hemodynamic derangement would be because of the decreased, because of low.
Hydroxyethyl starch will correct the hemodynamic, but why you won't give in acute liver failure? It will worsen if there is a coagulopathy. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So hydroxyethyl starch is not given, so you resuscitate him with a crystalloid, correct? Crystalloid.
Yes, sir.
So you rush crystalloids and then.
Sir, then I would target a mean arterial pressure of 75 millimeters.
That you don't do it in the OR, doctor. You don't do
not
it
in the ICU. Right,
since the room, you're going to give him this thing. You want to correct his sugars. Then.
Yes, sir. Sir, after that, sir, sir, the arterial.
He has no evidence of chronic liver disease. He is an encephalopathy.
Yes, sir.
So anything and anything. He's plain. This thing is going up.
Yes, sir. So would
You're able
advise.
to maintain him hemodynamic thing. You will send an arterial blood gas. Correct. In arterial blood gas, what do you think you're going to look for?
Sir, I would look for. Sir, it would give me an idea of the pH, sir. So I'll look for acidosis, sir.
Then.
And if in addition to that, we'll also look for the
lactate levels.
Lactate
so
levels.
For a lactate, you look for pH, right?
And sir, in addition to that, it'll also give us the metabolic. So sodium and levels will be. We can find out the sodium levels, like potassium levels as well.
Okay, then you shift him where? Shift him to the. Would you like to take a CT?
Sir, yes, I would get an urgent CT brain, sir.
Yeah. CT brain, at least plain, you need to get it.
Plain, yes.
To make sure there is no
edema, sir.
Not edema. One, it will show edema. Second thing is a bleed.
Yes, sir. Any bleed.
Most important thing is a bleed. Does he have had a bleed? Anything? Here is a patient who has come with something, any bleed, or it will also show cerebral edema. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So it will show cerebral edema so that you will take appropriate measures to correct the cerebral edema. Okay, now he has gone into the ICU. So what will be your investigation workup in this patient?
Sir, I would send a complete blood. Okay. Sir, hemoglobin is 10.3. The total counts are 17,000. Neutrophils is 56 and lymphocytes 21, monocytes 18. Platelet count is 39,000. The peripheral smear shows normocytic, normochromic anemia with thrombocytopenia and activated lymphocytes, sir. On day 2, sir, my interpretation of the CBC, sir, the high WBC count with thrombocytopenia with some lymphocytosis, sir, which could even indicate viral infection, sir. And on day 2, the hemoglobin is 8.9. The platelet count is 33,000. The peripheral smear shows a leukoerythroblastic picture. Okay.
So what do you want to do next? What are other investigations you want?
Sir, a liver function test, sir. And renal function, oh yes sir. Urea is 122, creatinine is 5.63, sodium is 132, potassium 4.6, bicarb is 8.9, lactate is 22, the random blood sugar is 100 milligram. The LFT
Bilirubin is 5.1, direct 3.2. SGOT is 3188. SGPT is 1334. GGT, alkaline phosphatase is 122. GGT is 189. 4.1 is the total protein. Albumin is 2.8. PTINR 2.26. Serum ammonia 663.
yes sir.
What is your interpretation here?
Sir, so there is a pre-renal AKI possible
Pre-renal.
with sir
Pre-renal.
AKI.
He's got a urea of 122, creatinine is 5.63. The most important question you had asked me, what was his urine output?
Yes sir.
His urine output was 10 ml per hour.
Okay.
Sodium was 132. Look at lactate, look at it bicarbonate.
Sir, high lactate level with low bicarbonate level, sir. Very low.
What does it say?
Metabolic
sir,
acidosis.
severe
What does it
metabolic
say?
acidosis.
Severe metabolic acidosis, which could be
Yes,
due to
sir,
Hypotension.
which could be due to
sir, the acute liver failure itself and
acute liver
it can
failure
be
has got a difficulty in clearing lactate as well as
lactate.
acute kidney injury.
Yes, sir.
And his ammonia is 663.
Yes, sir. Sir, high ammonia level. Sir,
Urine
high
output is 10 ml per hour.
Sir,
Blood
I would.
pressure, no, let me tell you. Urine output is 10 ml per hour. Urea is 122. Creatinine is 5.63.
Yes, sir.
Sodium is 132. Potassium is 4.6. Bicarb is 899. Lactate 22. And look at his liver. High SGOT, SGPT. There is a coagulopathy. So he's got acute liver failure. He's got acute kidney injury. Urine output is 10 ml per hour. BP is 80/40. So at this situation, the ICU, can you give me your management plan?
Sir, I would.
He's an encephalopathy, grade 2.
Yes, sir. Sir, I would start since already the patient is not responding to
Patient is not
crystalloids.
responding to crystalloids.
I would start the patient on vasopressors, sir.
What vasopressor?
Sir, noradrenaline.
Good. Noradrenaline.
I would.
Why does he
Yes,
have
sir.
hypotension?
Sir, he. Sorry, sir.
Why does he have hypotension?
Sir, because of hypovolemia, could be one of the third spacing of the fluid.
Corrected with this one here.
Okay, sir.
What is the best way to assess blood pressure in this patient in the ICU?
Sir, the best way would be an arterial.
You put an arterial
line,
blood line.
Arterial line.
Arterial blood line and look for this thing. So you'll give crystalloids. It is not. So you're going to give which vasopressor is the best?
Sir, noradrenaline, sir.
Noradrenaline.
Norepinephrine. Yes, sir.
Norad can be given. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now he has got a PTINR of 2.26, ammonia 663. What next?
Sir, next, because of the low urine output with metabolic acidosis, I would start this patient on CRRT, sir.
On renal replacement therapy.
Renal replacement therapy. Yes, sir.
What are the benefits of renal replacement therapy versus hemodialysis?
Sir, renal replacement therapy, sir, even in a hemodynamic unstable patient, it will not cause rapid fluid shifts. So it will not precipitate further episodes of hypotension. At the same time, it will cause clearance of lactate levels from the blood, and it will improve it will clear the urea also. So, and the urine output also will improve over a period of time slowly, sir.
The most important thing here is
ammonemia, hyperammonemia also will go down.
Will clear off by your sled or thing, but CRRT will clear your ammonia levels.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Clear your ammonia levels. That's the most important thing. So at this situation, You can start this patient on CRRT. Okay.
CRRT. Yes, sir.
So now
Yes.
we have started him on CRRT. He is on crystalloids. He is on NORAD support. What else you will start him on? What is
Sir,
your
in
prescription?
addition to, sir,
The
I would
prescription will be
start the
you have to
patient
maintain
on
a map. You have to maintain a map between 65 to 70.
MAP
He is on
70.
NORAD.
Yes, sir.
NORAD support.
Yes, sir.
He is going to be on
Yes, sir.
CRRT. And what else you will start on?
Sir, I would, sir, first nutrition, sir. The patient will not be able to take orally, so I would put in rice tube and start nutrition, sir. I would,
Nutrition.
yes, sir.
Will you give rice tube feeds when patient is in grade 2 encephalopathy?
Sir,
Generally, if the patient is intubated and grade 2 encephalopathy, so this patient got intubated because his encephaly was worsening, and then
okay.
when in some things they don't use nutrition, and some people they think. King's College says that you never use nutrition when enteral nutrition when the patient is in grade 3 or grade 4 encephalopathy. That is one thing. Okay, number one, you start nutrition. What else you will start this patient on?
So, antibiotics, sir.
Yeah, what antibiotics you start?
Sir, it should have a broad spectrum coverage, and we would look at the create clearance also. So, we can start with, I would start upfront with
gram-negative coverage. You give a gram-positive.
Both gram-positive and gram-negative.
This patient
Sir, in addition to this,
you will start him on antifungals.
Antifungal.
Prior to that,
because of hypotension,
urine culture,
and urine culture, sir.
How many blood cultures you will send?
Sir, 2 sets of blood culture, sir.
2 sets of blood culture and 1 set of urine culture and 1 set of fungal culture.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this patient underwent a CT brain. There was acute cerebral edema.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so he had acute cerebral edema.
Yes,
he
sir.
had no bleed. He has had a high acute kidney injury, anuric, and he had a high ammonia. So he was started on antibiotics, antifungal. Nutrition, first few days we withheld mainly because he was in this one, intubated, underwent CRRT. And what else can you give him?
It's a low platelet.
Acute liver failure.
Platelet count is low. You want to check on that?
Can we give an N-acetylcysteine?
Yes, sir. Sir, N-acetylcysteine can be
given.
given.
What is the role of N-acetylcysteine in non-paracetamol poisoning?
Sir, in acute liver failure of non-paracetamol etiology, it has been shown to decrease.
It should be started immediately.
Immediately, and it has been shown to delay transplant or avoid transplant in these.
It should be shown immediately. It does not avoid transplant. It has also been shown that non-paracetamol poisoning, paracetamol poisoning, yes, there's a definite indication, but in non-paracetamol also now they say you can start this thing. Okay. That is one thing which you can do this. So here it will be crystalloids, it will be CRRT, N-acetylcysteine, antibiotics, and anti-coma measures. What do we do?
Sir, for the cerebral edema, sir.
Anti-coma measures.
Sir, anti-coma measures, sir. We'll start
in acute liver failure.
Sir, there is no role of lactulose in acute liver failure, sir.
Is there a
we would give these patients.
Lola?
No, sir, no role of Lola. There has been a role of LOPA, sir.
LOPA in chronic
but it is in chronic not in acute liver failure. Acute
hepatic encephalopathy.
Sir, no. Sir, we'll give this patient hypertonic saline, sir.
How do you now treat his cerebral edema? He has got acute cerebral edema.
Sir, yes, sir. Sir, I would give him hypertonic saline and target the sodium level of 145 to 155. Sir.
How do you give saline?
Sir, we'll give it at As a
100 ml per hour.
ml per 100 ml per. No, sir.
What is the rate at which you give 3% saline?
Sir, it's given as 3 ml per hour, sir.
3 to 10 ml per hour.
Yes, sir.
And you should target the thing at about 145 to 150.
145 to 155, sir. Yes, sir.
What else can you do for cerebral edema?
Sir, we can mannitol, sir.
How much of mannitol for how many? Mannitol here, patient has got a renal failure.
No, sir, I would avoid it in this patient.
What else can you do?
Sir, we can hyperventilation. One of the methods, we elevate the head end and avoid any compression of
You
one
make it
part of the neck.
hypocapnic. You make it hypocapnic.
Hypocapnic.
What
Yes.
is the PCO2 you will maintain to get the hypocapnia?
Sir, we'll maintain around 30, sir.
23. You got to maintain at 23. Get the ABG and 23. How many days hyperventilation will be effective?
I don't know the duration, sir.
5 days. Beyond 5 days, it doesn't help you. Okay. Now we have done this. So what do you want to do next?
Sir,
You want to do a ecological evaluation.
sorry, madam. Sorry, sir.
You want to do an ecological evaluation.
Physiological evaluation. Yes, sir.
This is within about 4 hours. You have to do this.
Yes.
All this has to be done within 4 hours of your
4 hours.
4 to 5 hours. We have to do it. And what are the blood things you will send for the ecological evaluation? This patient.
Sir,
What is the list of
cultures,
ecological evaluation you will do for this patient?
Sir, I would look for the viral, acute viral hepatitis, sir.
So you will send for HBS.
Hepatitis, HBsAg, hepatitis A, and hepatitis E antigen also, sir.
HBsAg,
Yes, sir.
hepatitis A, HAV IgM, HEV IgM, and
HEV IgM, sir.
Then you will send, what are other viruses you will send? You will send for dengue. You will send
Sir, I'll send for dengue,
EBV virus.
IG.
You will send for EBV virus.
Yes, sir.
EBV virus, what will you send? IgM, IgG, or ELISA?
So for EBV virus, I would send an IgM, sir.
Most of the thing, you have to send an ELISA or alpha test.
Okay, sir.
And then HSV, EBV, VZV, dengue, all this has to go.
Yes, sir.
And in our part, we also send scrub typhus, anti-leptospira, VZ seronegative, and dengue NS1 was positive in this patient. Of course, COVID, we did it before the admission, and he was negative. So he was negative for hepatitis A, B, E, VZV, HSV, and leptospira, EBV, dengue on this thing.
Dengue is positive.
Negative for malarial parasite.
CMV,
CMV was also negative. CMV was negative.
enzymes are all
One thing, what is the clue in LFT to say this is not CMV?
thousands, it is in thousands.
Sir, the high AST2 and ALT.
Very high liver enzymes will not occur in leptospira, it will not occur in malaria, it will not occur in CMV,
Yes, sir.
it will not occur in scrub typhus. It can occur in it can occur in HSV,
Dengue.
it can occur in VZV, it can occur in EBV virus. Okay, so that is one thing. And importantly, it can also occur in drug induced, especially when patients have got in which
Paracetamol or.
target such high in liver enzymes.
So paracetamol.
Paracetamol you can get, any other drug. Valproate. Valproate you will get such very, very high levels. Okay. Valproate will come like a picture of Reye syndrome, isn't it?
Okay, sir. Yes.
You can get all these things. So, but he was dengue NS1 was positive and everything else was negative. So basically he had dengue fever presenting like acute liver failure, cerebral edema, and acute kidney injury. So initially CRRT was started. He was given antibiotics. He was intubated because he was a very profound encephalopathy. and he underwent CRRT for 2 days. After CRRT, the ammonia levels have started coming down. The urine output just picked up to 15 ml. So diagnosis was dengue fever, thrombocytopenia, acute kidney injury, acute liver failure, hypotension. So we discussed the initial management issues. Okay.
Yes.
So how do you assess the coagulopathy in this patient?
Sir, we do a TEG test, sir, thromboelastography, sir, in patients with acute liver failure, and it will based on the R time, the K time, it will give us an idea about the
So this patient's
clotting factors,
PPINR was 2.26.
2.26. Yes, sir.
You think we should have given FFP for him?
Sir, no, there is no role of giving prophylactic FFP, sir.
There are no prophylactic FFP in patients with unless there is a
With
bleed.
acute, unless there is a bleed. Yes, sir.
Supposing I want to do a paracentesis.
Okay, sir. Sir, it can be done even in the absence of FFP, sir.
Sure. So what are the
Yes,
values?
sir. No, so I'm not sure of the values, sir.
We don't need to really give FFP when you do. So he has got this. So initial management was antibiotics, intubation, NAC infusion, NORAD support, crystalloids. CRRT was given to this patient. Okay. Before you get the
Yes.
get the report, is there any indication for any other drug
Yes, sir.
in ALF? As empirically, can you tell? You have started antibiotics empirically.
Yes, sir.
You generally start acyclovir.
Sir,
Generally, you have to start acyclovir and until you get HSV result. And HSV cannot be ruled out only by your IgG or IgM. It should be ruled out by HSV DNA. Okay.
yes.
So empirically,
Yes.
acyclovir can be started before you can do this. Okay. And he was treated for his cerebral edema with 3% saline and hypocapnia with a target sodium of 145. He had a worsening HE intubated, he became uric, D3, fever was persistent, lactate 29, finished 2 CRRTs, bilirubin was 29.2, PTINR was 4.3, D-dimer elevated. This was on day 3, okay?
Yes, sir.
The cultures have not yet come so far, and this is on day 3. On day 3, we found that the platelets had dropped to 16,000, serum ferritin was 2,400, bilirubin shot up to 29, hemoglobin has dropped, platelets have dropped, ferritin of 2,400, D-dimer positive. What does it suggest?
So it suggests HLH is a possibility, sir. Hemophagocytosis with high ferritin level, sir.
So we did a bone marrow.
Okay, sir. And
Bone
features
marrow
of
which showed
hemophagocytosis.
severe macrophage activation syndrome. Echo, there was no fever, was persistent. Echo, no vegetations. Blood culture, Klebsiella grom, staph, MR-cons, and he had candidemia. So he was on colistin. Can we give colistin to him?
Sorry, sir.
Can we give colistin to him?
Sir, we'll yes, sir. Renal adjusted cholesterol. Anyway, he's on CRRT, so we can give.
Okay. So we have given him. We did give him colistin. He was on vancomycin and he was on fluconazole. Okay.
Yes.
So now he has got bilirubin of 29, lactate 29, PTINR 4.3, creatinine has come down to 3.2, urine output 30 ml per hour. Still patient intubated.
Okay, sir.
What next?
Sir,
He's got HLH.
yes, sir. So this is a secondary HLH, sir,
Yeah, of course. It's secondary HLH due to
because
dengue.
of the
What can you do here?
dengue.
And he's got an acute liver failure. What is the extracorporeal liver support you can give it to this patient?
Sir, plasma exchange,
Then start him on.
therapeutic plasma exchange can be done, sir.
Started him on plasma volume exchange with low dose of
Yes, sir.
steroids.
Steroids, yes.
Is steroid indicated?
Sir, yes, sir. Dexamethasone is given for patients with HLH, sir.
We don't give dexamethasone. We start him on Plex with a small dose of steroids with 20 milligrams of Isolone. Okay.
Okay.
So how do you do plasma volume exchange?
Sir, it is.
How does it help him? How does it help you?
It is done as a bridge to liver transplant, sir. In
not
patients with
liver
acute liver failure, it can also be.
Read
It
that
is
paper
known
about
to
plasma
decrease the
volume
PAMP.
exchange. It's not a thing. 52% of patients with acute liver failure did not have liver transplant.
Liver
You can't say
transplant.
it's
Yes,
a sugar. Here we used Plex for a treatment of HLH, isn't it?
okay, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, it decreases the PAMPs and DAMPs also, sir. And we replace the fluid with albumin or FFP, sir.
No, we don't use albumin.
Ideally FFP, sir. Ideally
We use
FFP.
low volume or high volume Plex.
Sir, in acute liver failure, high volume Plex has been recommended, but
What are you
in
using?
sorry, sir.
Indians have never known to tolerate
We
high
don't-
volume Plex.
No, sir. We use low
We
volume.
always low volume Plex, which may be less than 2.1 liters.
Yes.
So he was plexed. So on Plex, you need to look for bilirubin, you need to look for prothrombin type, you need to look for ferritin levels. Okay? If you have the capacity to do it, you can look for a 1 milligram factor. So he was given Plex with low dose of steroids. And slowly this patient, so he was given Plex and then you alternate Plex with CRRT because he was still anuric, his urine output was not good, creatinine was very high, and he was given antibiotics and antifungals. How do you manage his nutrition?
Sir, since he's already ventilated, sir, we can put oral Ryle's tube, sir,
Enteral nutrition.
and enteral nutrition, sir.
How much of fluids you will give him?
Sir, I would assess it based on the fluid, sir, up to 1.5 to 2 liters, sir.
Based on the urine output and then
Urine output, yes, sir.
hypermetabolic state and you give fluids. So how do you give fluid? How do you give enteral nutrition?
Sir, through a Ryle's tube we give, sir. We'll. Sorry, sir.
How do you give? Will you
Sir,
give every 1 hour bolus?
no, sir. We'll give continuous
Concession by using what?
infusion. So
What do you
using so we have to titrate.
What is
We
that
have
bag called? What is that pump called? That's called the Baxter bag and the Baxter pump. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So how much you can give? How long you will give in a day?
Sir, I would give it continuously.
They're all very
over,
set, Dr. Karthik. They're all very set. You would give it till how much you will give? How long you will give? When do you stop it or you don't stop it?
Sir, how much I would give a daily intake of up to 60 grams of protein, sir, in this patient.
No. The fluids, how much you give? The fluid, supposing 1,500 ml. Will you give it
Yes,
over 12 hours, 18 hours?
Sir, no, I would give it over.
Do you think you should
slow.
stop between the night times?
Yes, sir. Sir, I would give. I would give a continuous over 24-hour
4
period, sir.
hours. You are from Apollo, no?
And
You are from Apollo.
yes, sir.
You should ask Ramesh Venkatraman. No?
Yes.
24 hours you can give it.
Yes,
And
sir.
all these patients have intestinal failure. So how do you manage that intestinal failure?
Sir, in these patients, sir, we check the aspirate, sir. Initially,
That's okay.
when
If you
we
have
start-
intestinal failure, what do you do? How do you treat the intestinal failure? Give either metoclopramide or injection erythromycin.
Okay, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Erythromycin. Okay? You give erythromycin. Supposing patient has got ileus. Ileus. Can you still give enteral feeds?
Sir, initially, no, sir. We'll.
No. What else can you do? If he has got ileus, you can put a nasojejunal food and give.
Yes, sir. We can give a nasojejunal feed.
Why do you need to?
Sir.
Why do you need to feed these people during ileus?
Sir, because of
during ileus is the max time the mucosal atrophy happens, and then you can have a translocation. So even when you have ileus, what you can do is you can put in a nasogel tube and slowly trickle a feed at 10 or 20 ml so that you don't starve the gut. Translocation bacteria occurs when there is ileus. That's why you should give the feed on this. So we did Plex for 7 cycles, alternated with CRRT, and nutrition was taken care by a nasojejunal, triple lumen nasojejunal feed. We always use triple lumen because it will aspirate the gastric contents out. Then do we give PPI prophylaxis?
Sir, for patients, yes, sir, we give them to prevent stress ulcers, sir.
What is the problem of giving PPI in this patient?
Sir, a patient is on ventilator, so ventilator-associated pneumonia, bacterial translocation is
got
also
renal
higher
failure.
in these patients.
Patient has also got renal failure.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
PPI can it worsen a renal failure?
Sir, it is known to cause it can worsen
Interstitial
in
nephritis.
patients with
So you got to be very careful.
in
And of course, you gave what are the
interstitial
anti-coma?
nephritis is seen. Sorry, sir. Anti-coma measures, sir, as we mentioned, the hypertonic saline and hypercapnia, hypocap.
I think we took care of this edema. So the management was NAC infusion was given, Plex, I think. So Plex was used only when we have shown that there was HLH in these patients, especially when the serum ferritin has gone up on these patients. So patient gradually improved, fever settled, platelet gradually improved, sensory improved, bilirubin, patient experienced 11th day, and the AKA resolved. Okay?
Yes, sir.
On 14th day, patient had massive hematemesis. Hemoglobin had 5.5 grams. He had pallor, tachycardia. Platelet count was 1,26,000. PTINR was 1.2.
Okay, sir.
So what do you do?
Sir, so first I would transfuse the patient with blood, sir, because I would follow the
So he had
restrictive
pallor,
blood
he had
transfusion.
tachycardia, so significant. So you will resuscitate him with.
Resuscitate him first with packed red blood cells, sir.
What is your target hemoglobin here?
So 7 gram %, sir.
That now we get for another 15 days again.
When do you do an endoscopy in this patient?
Sir, I would first after resuscitation, I would give the patient packed red blood cells, and then I would.
Why do you think you would have had a hemoglobin? He has had a hematemesis here. Cause of hematemesis in this patient.
Sir, one is sir, it could be because of the sir, in this
Platelets
patient,
are 1,26,000. PTINR is 1.2.
So the
Obviously,
coagulopathy is settled.
there's no hematological thing to cause fever or bleed. And he has had only hematemesis. He didn't have any diffuse bleed.
Sir, yes, sir.
What are
Sir,
the causes of hematemesis in this patient on 14th day?
sir, patient with dengue specifically, sir, platelet dysfunction can be still seen, and stress ulcers could be a cause, sir.
Platelet dysfunction thing, they should have had bleeding from the nose. He would have had a bleeding from the gums. He would have had bleeding from the things.
Yes, sir.
One, we had to use steroids. Steroids could have exacerbated H. pylori. You could have developed stress ulcers, isn't it?
Stress ulcers, sir. Yes, sir.
All these are possibilities, isn't it? Or he could have had a dual of voice lesion, isn't it?
So, yes.
You could have had developed a duodenal ulcer, right?
Yes, sir.
So when do you do things? When will you time his endoscopy?
Yes.
2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 12
Sir,
hours.
when do I?
When do you time his endoscopy?
Sir, sorry, sir. So within,
Will you give him the PPI infusion?
I would prefer from Ranchi.
yes, sir, I would start the patient on PPI.
What is the role of PPI infusion?
Sir, it has found to
Why do you need to give
decrease
PPI
the.
Tell me 1, 2, 3, 4 points. First, how much of PPI will
So PP. So I'll give 80 milligrams of pantoprazole stat followed by infusion at 8 milligram per hour, sir.
Why do you need to give PPI?
Sir, it decreases it blocks the H plus ATPase pump, sir.
That's
So
okay,
it-
doctor. What does it do when you give PPI? What will happen to
acid
intraluminal
hematin-
pH? What happens to
So
intraluminal?
intraluminal pH will increase, sir.
You've got to tell me 1, 2, 3, 4. It raises up the intraluminal pH. Once the intraluminal pH is there, what happens? What will happen?
Sir, it raises the intraluminal pH. It stabilizes the clot, sir.
It stabilizes the clot. Number 3.
Yes, sir. Sir,
What has been shown that if you give PPI,
yes, sir.
what has it been shown?
Yes, sir. It has been shown that it decreases the need for intervention, sir.
This is a need for blood transfusion.
Blood
as well as
transfusion.
Intervention. So this patient has got gastric ulcer with adherent clot. What is the Forest classification on this?
So Forest 2B, sir.
Forest 2B. So if
2B.
you see an adherent clot, what do you do in endoscopy?
Sir, it could be an impending. There could be a bleed under that. So with the snare, we slowly try to remove the clot, sir. But we don't apply too much force, as it can lead to tethering of the mucosa, and it can increase.
Okay, you're not able to remove it. What do you do?
Sir, if you're not able to remove it, then
You can inject noradrenaline. Then what is,
noradrenaline.
so one monotherapy is accepted now, or dual therapy?
So dual therapy, sir.
Always dual therapy. So
Except in-
dual therapy you will do here. So one, you can inject adrenaline. Number 2.
Sir, after removal of the clot, sir.
No, you're not able to remove the clot. What can you do?
Sir, we can put hemospray.
You can do a hemospray,
Yes, sir.
or if you're able to remove the clot,
So if you're able to remove the clot, then we look for the site and we can use a hemoclip with
if there is a
injection.
vessel, you use it.
If there is a vessel.
Hemoclip. This is what you do. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what we did is we did the same thing. We were not able to remove the clot, so we put a hemospray.
Yes.
We again bled the second time, and we looked at it, and we took. We again put a hemospray. Would you take a biopsy of this gastric ulcer?
Yes, sir. Sir, all gastric ulcers should ideally be biopsied, sir.
We biopsied
because
this gastric ulcer, and this shows extensive ulceration covered by thing. Mucosa shows evidence of inflammatory Invade neutrophil lymphocytes and foamy macrophages. Foamy macrohistiocytes are not commonly seen in patients with H. pylori or drug-induced gastric ulcers. It is commonly seen in HLH. So in HLH itself, you can get large gastric ulcers, large intestinal ulcers, large colonic ulcers. Classical biopsy is foamy macrophages and histiocytes. Okay, this is what happens. So this is a gastric ulcer secondary to HLH.
HLH.
So you will get as a part of HLHs, or you can get these ulcers. Any particular drug which you use in HLH can produce large gastric ulcers.
So steroid.
Etoposide. If they sometimes use etoposide, and that can produce gastric ulcers. And among the HLH, it is the Epstein-Barr virus HLH which can produce large ulcers. Okay, not even dengue HLH. Here, this was showed only a EBV of fast. So it is the EBV virus HLH which can do a lot of these things. So I think this patient had acute liver failure in a tropical infection. What are the learning objectives? Acute liver failure in a tropical infection like dengue. So you need to define acute liver failure. How do you define an acute liver failure?
Sir, it is acute liver injury, sir, characterized by jaundice and
the presentation of encephalopathy in a patient.
yes,
Rapid
acute liver
onset
injury
of
with encephalopathy
in a patient who has no
coagulopathy
previous evidence of chronic liver disease
chronic liver disease.
in the presence of a hepatic necrosis. Okay, so this is hyperacute.
Yes.
We looked at the ecological evaluation, how we go to do it. Always remember that you need to rule out Wilson's or acute Budd-Chiari.
Yes, sir.
Important in ALF is initial assessment and recitation, and you should know what you should not use. Then management of complications. Here we managed his acute kidney injury. We managed his severe cerebral edema. We managed his acute liver failure, and we managed his HLH by CRRT, intubation, nutrition, this thing. Actually, if you see, and he had a very florid infection. He had Klebsiella, he had staph, he had candidemia. So management of complications, what we dealt with, including nutrition. And in the nutrition, should always remember that in 1 ml, you can give only 1.5 kilocalories. And in a patient with a tropical jaundice and ALF, if you have a worsening encephalopathy, jaundice, and lowering of the pelvic, look for hemophagocytic syndrome or macrophage activation syndrome. And if that is there, plasma volume exchange with a low dose steroid is the key to find out this. So ultimately, this patient became better, and this patient had a GI bleed, and we need to know how do we manage the GI bleed, what is the initial management, what is the initial recitation, timing of the endoscopy, classification, forest classification, and what is the endoscopic hemostatic methods in dealing with this patient. And in this patient, the real issue was the gastric ulcers were secondary to HLH as proven by biopsy. I think this is what I wanted to take you through this case of managing an acute liver failure. Dr. Verghese, Jayanti madam, any comments on this?
Yeah, this is a good case which we see day in and day out, acute liver failure, but HLH is something which is not that commonly seen. And so many learning points were there, so many, I would say, regarding acute liver failure, the various causes of that, the clinical presentation, cerebral edema, so many things. Now, there were a couple of questions asked. Can you consider...
Madam, you can... just let Madam let her give comments and then.
Yeah, it was very nice, NVK, as usual. You went through all the complications, well discussed. I think we can just touch upon this FFP in low platelet, where
Madam?
In low platelet count, the role of FFP, rather than give platelet.
Role of?
FFP in platelet.
FFPs, we give it only if there is a bleed, but if there is no bleed or no intervention, we are not going to use. There is no role, as Karthik was saying, no role for prophylactic population products in these patients with ALF, unless they bleed or something.
Yeah, this is that Epan's concept, no? That do not give platelet concentrate, but going for it.
Yeah, when you give this, we never give platelet concentrate. When you give platelet concentrate in this HLH, then you give FFP and then you give platelets.
That's because the VWF and atom TS13.
Depletion.
I think that's something.
That's because of acute consumption, what happens in HLH.
Any time would consider liver transplant in this patient? Nothing.
He was dengue, severe renal failure.
Patient deteriorating.
So we always thought we could just probably HLH.
Yes, ma'am.
HLH, I'm not very sure. Malignant infiltration of liver, we don't really consider transplant in these patients.
The two questions were, will you consider alcoholic liver disease in this patient? Suppose the patient, the bystanders are not aware of his alcohol intake. Of course, a young patient, but suppose it is an older patient who is presenting with this feature. Will you consider alcoholic
liver disease will never come
not in acute liver.
3,380 SGOT or 1,300 SGPT. The MCV will be high. They don't come to you with a low platelet count of 39,000 and disproportionate anemia. Alcoholic hepatitis, they come with a total this one.
So should they say it in the initial differential diagnosis?
And they don't come with an onset of encephalopathy within such a short span, sir.
Such a short span.
Patient is absolutely okay. The fever, the thing, they don't come with such a short span in alcohol liver disease.
Another suggestion was that
what could have happened is if patient has had an alcohol earlier, but this dengue could have aggravated the underlying alcohol. But I don't think alcohol per se could have caused such a syndromic presentation.
Another suggestion was that can typhoid hepatitis produce fever, right hypochondrial pain, and present like this?
I'm telling you, you don't get such and you don't get dramatically in typhoid. The patients are ill, they have jaundice, they have some fever going on, diarrhea. Then on the second week, they develop jaundice. Then they develop some neurological man. We did see some but your liver enzymes are never so high in this patient. And it's never dramatic within 4 to 5 days, typhoid presenting with encephalopathy.
Yeah, that is encephalopathy.
I do agree, we should consider typhoid as a part of a tropical hepatitis presenting with altered sensorium. It could be scrub typhus, it could be dengue, it can be leptospira, it can be malaria, it can be typhoid.
Typhoid is also known to produce altered sensorium by itself.
Neurological manner, it can produce attacks. Yes. I think sometime back from OSCE, I think I discussed here in the same forum, typhoid coming out like ataxia and jaundice.
Next question was that is the dose of NAC same as used in paracetamol poisoning, or is it different in non-paracetamol ALF?
It's almost the same. It is almost the same. Like you don't use it like 100 milligrams or 300 milligrams in the first 12 hours per kg. You start with 100 milligrams per kg and then you go on. What we do is we give around 5.5 to 6 grams a day of N-acetylcysteine in these patients.
Then there was a question about the reference for plex in ALF. I think
this is the Larson study, which has come in a Journal of Hepatology, 13-year-old study, which included both ALF and ACL. It is Larson study. And Larson study has shown that about 52% of the patients were able to be, they do a large volume, plasma volume exchange of nearly 9 liters. And then it goes on to have, then 52% of them survived without a transplant.
We have a study by Jayanti ma'am's group, which was published a few months ago only.
Joyce.
Where is it published, ma'am?
Indian Journal.
Indian Journal of Gastro. Yeah, I have read it. Yeah. That's again acute liver failure. In fact, it reduces the chances of transplantation. It was something like that, no?
In rat killer poisoning in our center, we are able to now tide them off very fast without a transplant.
Yeah, that is a general impression. This rodenticide.
The moment we don't even wait for encephalopathy. The moment you have an acute liver injury, we put them on a plasmapheresis, low volume plasmapheresis. and we are able to tide them off quite well. We don't wait for encephalopathy, we don't wait for acidosis or anything. The moment they come and I find that the PTINR is prolonged, they are in a phase of acute liver injury, then we do start with this one.
Okay, that is it. So I don't find any further questions or anything.
This may be a ward round or something. That's why I just want to take. But there are a lot of points here because it was dengue, HLH, patient had cerebral edema, initial management, how do we resuscitate? Now, sometimes people give hydroxyethyl starch, all sorts of things when they come. That actually has worsened the patient many times.
So I think we come to the end of today's class. Anything else you want to say, Dr. Manju?
Sorry, Tessis. I wanted to do an OSCE, but I think I'll club it up on 25th and do about 3 or 4 OSCEs that day.
Okay, so next week, your 25th is OSCE, 2 or 3. Okay.
That's what you told me, 25th.
So we have a pathology session, J pathology for exam going coming Thursday, same time. With these words, I want to thank you, Professor Venkat, for such an extensive coverage of ALF. It was a very interesting case. You have taken us through different clinical aspects of the disease. It was like a story, very nice listening, and of course, so many learning points are there. My request to President sir, please go and read. You have to read around the case which you have just discussed. Then only things will stick with your mind. So just go and read. That is my suggestion. Okay. So thanks once again, Professor Venkat, for
Thank
your
you, madam. Thank you, sir.
taking
Thank you.
so much of pains. And thanks, ma'am, for joining.